Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. My name is Linda, and I am your host. I am an empowerment coach, a spirit junkie, a realtor, a proud mom, and a dog mom. I'm also an animal advocate, a child advocate, and someone that overcame a lot of challenges and trauma in my life. This podcast is packed with powerful content, inspiring conversations with amazing guests who will help you heal, grow, and evolve into a better version of you so you can attract in your best and most empowered life. I don't know about you, but I'm not here for mediocrity. I'm here for an abundant, blessed life. Life does not have to be so hard. That is an old program. We can do less and attract more, and I know this to be true. I love bringing you this powerful information. I hope you enjoy, learn, and grow. Have a beautiful day. Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Brand, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, I have a special guest I'm super excited about. She is a conscious entrepreneur, international keynote speaker, and life coach. She integrates science and spirituality into her life, her teachings, and her coaching. She is multi-passionate. She is a shamanic practitioner. She owns a Vietnamese restaurant that's award-winning. She is amazing. She uses her profound knowledge of ancient wisdom to call on healing and transformative energies to assist her clients and students to gain clarity, access their power, and make profound and lasting change in their lives. She is a powerhouse, and I am so excited to introduce you to her. She's a keynote speaker in Australia. She's a dynamite on the stage. I've heard her myself, and I am so excited to bring her to you. So welcome, Pauline, to the show. I don't know how to pronounce your last name correctly. So Pauline
Win, as in win or lose.
Pauline Nguyen. Okay. Beautiful. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here. I'm so excited to share your story with everybody and your journey and what you're up to, because you're up to so many things.
Thank you, Linda. We're very similar in that we are multi-passionate. We can be good at more than one thing, hey?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you were escaped Vietnam as a refugee to Australia. You live in Australia now, correct?
Yes. Look, I think it's always very important to share a little bit about the origin story to new listeners. I am a refugee. I escaped Vietnam when I was very young. My father built a boat just after the Vietnam War and smuggled myself, my brother, my mother. We were with 3 other families as well. We spent 9 days out at sea. We ended up in Thailand, where we spent a very difficult year in a refugee camp there. And in 1978, Australia finally accepted us. And so coming into Australia, not only did we have to experience the displacement, all the racism, all the stuff that comes from starting all over again, my father was also a very violent man. He suffered terribly from PTSD because of the war. And, you know, he didn't know any better and he didn't have much help. And so the trauma was passed down to him from his father, and then his father's father. And so a lot of his trauma was dumped on myself and my brothers. So we grew up in a very violent household. But my father was also quite the entrepreneur. Growing up, we worked in the family businesses. We had a video library, an ice cream parlor, a restaurant, a cafe, and he also operated a driving school on the side, and us kids provided the child labor. So we learned to work at a very young age. I started working full-time at the age of 7, and on top of all of this, we had to get good grades as well, otherwise a firm beating ensued. But what we did learn was a ferocious work ethic. He had instilled into us a ferocious work ethic. We were also very tough mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. We were a mess, though, because of all the violence and the abuse. But that's where the entrepreneurial bug was. We
Yeah.
got the entrepreneurial bug big time when we were young. And that was also because of my father's influence. I ran away from home when I was 17. I couldn't stand the horror of living at home anymore. And I pretty much fended for myself. After running away from home, I put myself through university. I got a Bachelor of Arts in Communications degree. And because of my work ethic, it was very easy for me to start working in some of the best restaurants in Sydney under the tutelage of some of the best chefs and sommeliers in Sydney. And along with that also comes a whole lot of partying, a whole lot of hanging out with the rich, the elite, the influential. And it was a real eye opener for me because I just saw these very, very wealthy people, and some of them were so unhappy and depressed, taking lots of drugs, partying, all that stuff. And it really struck a chord with me because I thought, wait a minute, my parents worked like dogs all their lives. We grew up in a terrible environment. My parents and we have a right to be unhappy, but you rich guys don't. What's this all about? And it really triggered a deep curiosity for me because just existentially, it didn't make sense. And that really began my journey into diving deeper around what does it mean? Is it better to be rich and unhappy or happy and not rich? And my life experiences took me around the world. I studied from and learned from many teachers and many spiritual teachers. And because of my entrepreneurial background as well, and my life experience, knowing what fear smells like, knowing how hard we have to work in business and in life, and having a lot of success in the entrepreneurial world, I started a movement called the Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur.
Mm.
And that's where we are today. It's been a movement that I've been working on for a while now. I speak about spiritual entrepreneurship on the world stage. My latest book, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur, The 7 Secrets to Becoming Fearless, Stress-Free, and Unshakable in Business and in Life, won Best Entrepreneurship and Small Business Book Award. And so I really marry spirituality with entrepreneurship. Spirituality being that to live our life in spirit and inspired. So it has nothing to do with religion. The spirituality that I teach has nothing to do with religion. I personally believe that it is religion that needs spirituality. Spirituality does not need religion. And so it's very much about living your life in spirit and inspired, asking ourselves very different questions every day, and making a very significant and very different impact to the old ways that entrepreneurship and business is perceived.
Amazing. Tell us some of those questions we should be asking ourselves every day.
And what do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Very
So
powerful
good.
question. What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? Do I need to rest? Rest is a weapon. Do I need to ground myself to the earth so that I'm not so flighty? Do I
Mhm.
need to hang out with inspiring people? Do I need to eat better food? Do I need to just sit in the sun and have the sunlight kiss my face? What do I need to do to feel the way I want to feel? What do I need to do to feel in spirit and inspired? Because some of the most successful people I know live their life in spirit and inspired. The second question, who do I need in my orbit to help me to get to where I want to go faster? Now we're talking
Mm.
about influence and persuasion. Now we're talking about co-regulation, building a community that is gold. Now we're talking about not having to lone wolf it, but in order to attract those into your orbit to help you to get to where you want to go faster, you
So
have
good.
to be magnetic. You have to understand the laws of magnetism. You have to understand the laws of influence and persuasion so that you can start to attract those into your orbit to help you to get to where you want to go faster. But that means what sort of energy are you emitting? What words do you speak? What thoughts do you think? What actions do you take to attract the right people into your orbit to help you to get to where you want to go faster? And the third question, the most important one, is what would love do? What would
Mm.
love do? What
Yeah.
would love for self do? What would love for community do? What would love for your mission and your calling do? So
Mm,
those are three very
mm,
different
mm.
questions that
I
go
love those.
attract so many different levels, right? And so we
Mm,
really, it really is about doing things differently, speaking things differently, thinking things differently, but also understanding the reasons why we should think differently, think differently, do things differently.
mm. Yeah, so good. Tell me the book, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur, The Seven Secrets to Becoming, what was it?
Fearless, stress-free, and unshakable.
Fearless, stress-free, and
And unshakable
unshake.
in business
Okay.
and in life.
In business and in life. Oh my gosh, you published this book?
Yes, I've written two books. The first book I wrote is called Secrets of the Red Lantern. I published that in 2007. I won Debut Writer of the Year. It became an international bestseller, completely changed my life. It is a very dark and personal memoir, which I disguised as a cookbook. So people would buy it based on the backstory of my restaurant.
Restaurant.
My restaurant is called Red Lantern. It is the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world. We've been around for 22 years now in what is a very challenging, fickle, and competitive industry. But the book you just asked me about, Linda, is called The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur. And in the year of its release, that book won Best Entrepreneurship and Small Business Book Award.
Oh my gosh, I have to get that book. Fearless, stress-free, and unshakable in business
It's
and in
also
life.
available on Audible.
Okay,
It does very
beautiful.
well there too.
Oh my goodness. So, did you have your own therapy and your own to deal with the things that happened? Did you hire your own coaches? Like what? I know you were curious when you were hanging with these wealthy people who were miserable and
Yeah.
doing drugs and stuff. Pardon? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you have your own, did you go into all your, is that part of it that you had therapy or did you not? Like I've never had really therapy till a year ago. I always hired coaches in 2017 to
Yeah.
now. I started hiring coaches and they were all spiritual. And I'm very spiritual even though I grew up without any like of that. But did you grow up with any religion or beliefs, spiritual beliefs?
I am a practicing Buddhist. I went to Catholic school purely because there's no Buddhist school. My father believed that we needed another a discipline, another way of
Mm,
thinking.
hmm.
But I'm a practicing Buddhist.
Love it.
I have not had therapy. I've done a whole lot of work on myself with a deep curiosity to walk down that consistent long hall of mirrors, and the spirituality that I teach and the coaching that I practice, especially with my clients. It is very much about eyes in. And not everyone has the ego strength to have eyes in, right? It's always eyes out, eyes out. Who else can I blame?
Hmm.
What other story can I attach to amplify my victimhood? And
Right.
so for myself, spiritual teachers, spiritual practices, I have the same executive coach I've had for the last 20 years. And I think it's important. I know you're a coach too, Linda. I think it's important that the life we live are the lessons that we teach. And so my practices, the way that I coach, I is a semantic, the somatic as a soulmatic. I'm very well versed in NLP. I'm very well versed in human behavior coaching practices, but it talk therapy alone takes too long. And so I also incorporate the somatic of the body. Where are you holding your emotions? Where are you holding the stress? Where are you holding the trauma? And so there's a whole lot of somatic work, Qigong, movement, EFT, breath work, and then of course the soulmatic, the shamanism. Because there's more dimensions than just this 3D dimension, right? And
Right.
so we work with activation, sound healing, nature's medicine. We work a lot in the quantum. And so when we combine the semantic, somatic, and soulmatic, that's how I get results for my clients very quickly. But
Mhm.
it does require them to walk down the long hall of mirrors, right? And so before anyone starts coaching with me, I ask them to complete a questionnaire, which is a beautiful filter because I am not a therapist. I'm very discerning with who I choose to work with. And so just through that first filter, I know who's still in victim consciousness. I know who's still playing the blame game, the shame game, the low aim game. And I have other coaches who say, Pauline, you should be able to coach everyone. My response is yes, but what if I do not want to?
Right.
Um,
Right. You
and
get to choose.
I get to choose, right? Because we can and we're
That's
allowed.
right.
And so, whoever's not for me, I recommend them to someone else because I only want to work with the people who want true transformation, who are not afraid to have eyes in, who are not going to play the blame game, the shame game, the low aim game. And then
Hmm.
that gives permission for both parties, right?
Oh, yeah. Amazing. So good. Oh, so good. Do you keep any special diet? I'm going to be my authentic self and ask you, are you vegetarian or vegan or anything?
No, I'm not. I'm hospitality. I've grown up with delicious food, delicious wine. If I were to make comment, I would make comment in that um, we are not here as humans to have this, almighty, high spirited, soul seeking, renouncing. Now I'm going to, be vegan and don't drink. And there's a whole lot of judgment that comes with that as well, right? Whatever turns you on, man. But I know that we are here as souls to have the human experience. And so when we can learn to have the soul and the human body, really understand that it's a beautiful dance here to be souls to have the human experience. And so if you think that this spirituality is about renouncing or suffering as much as possible or making people do something that just takes away the deliciousness of life, I would encourage you to have another look at that.
Mm.
Again, whatever turns you on, whatever
He,
um, values that you think is right or righteous. But
yeah.
for me, spirituality is to live my life in spirit and inspired. And so I love delicious food. I love delicious wine. I love delicious conversations and delicious people. And I wish to live a life where my soul dances inside my human body, right? And then my soul says to my human body, thank you so much for allowing me to evolve inside of you. And the soul says to the human body, because of you, I can hug my children. Because of you, I can kiss my lover. Because of you, I can ring up and have that interview. I can feel the salt water caress my skin. I can play these
Yeah.
instruments and dance. And so when we can really get that, it's the moment our perception changes and we rewrite the chemistry of our body. So we don't renounce, right? I don't renounce. My students and my clients, we don't renounce because our soul and our body says, can we be friends now?
Mm, I love that. Yeah. I just think, it's some people we're feeling beings. We're sensual beings. So I
Yeah,
completely get that. I love beautiful flowers and I love beautiful
yeah,
scents and beautiful tastes, but just different people have different beliefs around, the animals, eating animals and different things like that. But so yeah, your book sounds amazing. You've overcame so much. You created, so you spiritual entrepreneur. And where's the restaurant in Australia, right?
yes, it's in
Okay.
Sydney, Australia.
Okay. And that's where you reside. And my goodness, I just love talking to you. You're just a delight. So who are most of your clients? Are they women? Do you two help men too? Or do you do both?
Yes, my clients are all around the world. We have, if you would say, I have a niche, it would be already established entrepreneurs, but there are other professions, of course. I coach a lot of corporate CEOs because they know where the collective consciousness is going. And predominantly, I coach women, not because I don't coach men, but I think, well, I know that more and more men are wanting to do this work, but it is the women who are more open and more free to do this work first.
Yeah.
But my clients are probably 80% women and 20% men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not taking the victim mindset, you're taking somebody that says, I need help, I need healing, and they know, we're all intuitive beings and that self-awareness is number one. Like, I could say I could hire you tomorrow because I still have work to do. I've done so much unlearning and healing and mirror work and all the things, but I am still, it's just ongoing. It's very ongoing. I
Yeah, I think
interviewed, yeah, I interviewed this one guy and he was saying that he's healed. He did all this work and read all these books and listened to podcasts and quit alcohol and did all these things to heal himself. But when he said, he knows he's healed and that he can spot an unhealed person anywhere, I'm like, I just feel like we're all still healing, but that's just me. What were you going to say?
um, what does it mean to have healed? It means the opposite of,
Yeah.
right? I was sad, I'm no longer sad.
Yeah.
I was jealous, I'm no longer jealous. I was in pain, I'm no longer in pain. But we have this thing called life. We're not monks sitting in some monastery not doing life. We do business, we do children, we do parenting, we just do life. And so there are always going to be things that come up. And so one thing I always say is all the books, all the podcasts, all the learnings, it means shit unless you integrate it. Unless you integrate it. And so rather than saying, I had a client reach out the other day. She's going through a very bitter divorce. And she said, Pauline, my heart hurts, it's painful. And she asked as if it was, what else have you got for me? What else have you got? And I said, if you think this road of divorce and lawyers and having to move countries, if you think this is going to be pain free, then you are deluded. It can be
Exactly.
painless. It can be painless. You feel less pain, less fear, but the actual process of going through it, the process of walking down the long hall of mirrors, that is the healing part. That's the healing part. So rather than thinking that this whole spiritual journey is love and light and peace, love and mung beans, then you are deluded. This spiritual journey is about self mastery, it's about self leadership, so that you can ask yourself, who am I and how will I show up when I am tested? I will always remember who I am when I'm tested. I will always remember how will I show up? And that's always a decision. And so rather than thinking this path is to have the end goal be, love and light and no pain and no suffering, perhaps the freedom here is to accept that it is actually the part of the journey of evolution.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
that the only way is through. And so, how can it not be a continuous process if we are continually living this game called life? And so, people just really need to make that little shift, right, to see things very, very differently. And so,
Yes.
it's not about no pain. It's not about this big, massive panacea that I've reached this end goal. It's to live your life differently. It's to
Exactly.
understand that you can do it differently.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel I watched one of your videos on self-love, and that's gigantic in this conversation we're having right here.
Mm,
And I agree that you're going to have life happens and you're going to experience challenges, but it's who you are and how you respond versus react. And it's like when I'm tested and I'm like, oh, an older version of me would have handled this way, and I would
yeah,
have been. And then when I don't act like the old version and I'm the new version, there's
yeah,
a giant blessing on the other side. You know, I was in real estate for all these years and I had the wrong mindset. I had a victim mindset and I fell into
yeah,
the career, and I came from a home of negativity and judgment and criticism. And I knew right away I had to work on this. So I started listening to Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins for years, and it still wasn't enough, but I was doing it and it helped. But until I started hiring coaches in 2017 and all the things and had the growth and the epiphanies. But then when I changed my whole life 2 years ago, moved here, quantum shifts, giant healing, huge things. facing the demons, all the things. And
Yeah,
that's why I say to you, like, if I knew what I know today, 20 years ago, I would have had a different business. But everything happens for a reason. And
yeah,
rejections, redirection, in my opinion, and rejections, protection in a lot of ways too.
it's
But
true.
yeah, and I watched your video on self-love and I've been on that journey. And I had
Yeah,
some giant growth, in that area. And I've hated myself for a very long time. And I didn't realize it till very
right,
recent. And then I'm like, okay, this makes so much sense.
right.
So tell us about the self-love. I love this message because I bring guests on my show all the time that talk about it. And not everyone saw the video that I saw that you did that was so powerful.
I need to make the distinction that self love is not, today I'm going to have a bubble bath with champagne and chocolates, and I'm going to get another massage. Massages are important, of course, and champagne is important, of course, too, right? But that's not self love. Self love is, I will not betray myself ever again. I will always set my boundaries for myself. Boundaries are a metaphor. I will put my boundaries in point form, not so that I can make you do something you don't want to do, so that I hold myself to account. And so boundaries isn't, these are my boundaries and don't you dare step over my boundaries. First of all, we have to, whoever it is that we are setting those boundaries for, make it absolutely clear to them. For example, you will not come to my house unannounced. For example, I will not answer your emails anytime after 6 p.m. For example, when I hang out with you, please do not speak badly of such and such and such. Those are my boundaries. We have to make our boundaries absolutely clear because a lot of people have boundaries, but they expect the other person to read their mind. And the
Yeah,
other person has no idea, right? And
right.
so to have our own boundaries is to hold ourselves to account, to uphold and enforce our boundaries for ourselves. It's not about the other. It's again, eyes in, not eyes out. It's about speaking my truth so that we don't suppress and suppress and suppress, because whatever you suppress needs to be made manifest in some sort of disease or dis-ease, in some sort of skin condition, cancer, autoimmune disease, or whatever that is. Whatever you suppress must be made manifest somehow. It is the law. But here's the thing, you have to learn how to do it skillfully. Isn't that what life is? To acquire more and more skills, to
Hmm.
influence people, to influence yourself. In other words, it's not to scream and shout and cry all over the place. That's not the vulnerability I'm speaking about. That's just called being manipulative with your emotions. Vulnerability is the potent value exchange of authentic expression so that both people have value. What does that mean? It means be skillful enough to love yourself enough to have those confronting conversations
Yes,
with
that's right.
breath, with
Yes.
well chosen words,
Hmm.
with the vulnerability to show your emotions, but not be a blithering mess, right? And so, what happens then is we have this potent value exchange of authentic expression. Hey, here are my boundaries, here are my values. I require that you honor them. I require that I honor them as well. But also, can we have this confrontation? It's not going to be comfortable, but when we have this confrontation, it is in service of harmony. Confrontation is in service of harmony. This may be a difficult conversation now, but the harmonious part comes when you will not overstep these boundaries again, when I also hold myself to account, when I don't suppress, because the harmony then is my inner peace. The
Hmm.
harmony then is the next evolution of our friendship, when we are both absolutely clear where we stand. And so that is the self-love that I teach. That is the self-love that
Well,
I'm referring to. The
yes. And
self-love to say, I will never betray myself again
right.
because I love myself too much.
Yes, and that means saying no when you want to say no, and yes when you want to say yes, and not saying yes when you want to say no because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to do it. And then anytime, just in my personal experience, if I do something that I didn't want to do, a lesson shows up and it's
Yeah.
always that divine message. You should have listened. You didn't want to. And you said, yeah, always,
Yeah.
always. The universe is always giving me these little, I mean, it's wild. I mean, my whole life or a lot of my life, if I have a negative thought, I bump myself. I hurt myself. I'm telling you, it's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then
I love
conversely, when we do things that are aligned, we're also rewarded, right?
yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And you mentioned rest as being something earlier in the conversation.
Rest is a weapon. Rest is a weapon.
Speak more on that.
Rest is not a nice to have or a should have or a could have. It makes we us a fucking weapon. Like when we people often say to me, um, you should sleep 8 hours, Pauline. How do you get by with 4 hours? It's like, but look at me, I do. I get by with 4 hours sleep. Sure, on the ninth or 10th day, I lay in bed and I may sleep more than 4 hours, but I can get by on 4 hours sleep every day. Why? Because I rest throughout the day. We go into deep yoga nidra rest. We rest the mind, the body, everything goes into deep meditation rest. And
Mm,
so rest becomes a weapon. Why? Because when we know how to properly rest without the guilt, with
good.
without the I must rush my rest, right? Without all of that, because we
Shame.
come out
Yeah.
of it stronger, faster, more articulate, sharper, more creative. But there's a whole lot of different rest, right? There's social rest. Now, I want to clear my calendar of all social stuff. I'm going to eliminate the unnecessary for a while.
I
Emotional
love that.
rest. I'm going to stay away from, high drama,
Or
toxic
technology. Put
people.
the phone away.
Exactly. It's technological rest. There's, of course, physical rest, mental rest, spiritual rest. There's a whole lot of different types of rest, but that you can only know what you need, right? I'm going through a period of time now where, 2024 is a yang year, as in yin or yang. The yang year, it's an 8 year, 2+0 plus 2+4. It is a year for us to step up and put the pedal, press hard on the pedal and pursue our dreams and our goals relentlessly. And so I'm
Hmm.
saying no to social invitations. I'm saying no to fluffing around and doing the stuff that doesn't matter.
And
Why? Because I know if I do this now, I'm going to have planetary support.
mm-hmm.
That this is
Mm.
what the numerology says, this is what the planets say. And so we play a very different game. But amongst all of that, we're able to do so faster, stronger, fitter, more articulate, sharper because we rest. That's why I say rest is a weapon.
Mm. So good. We have to give it to ourselves more. Absolutely. It's very powerful to just give yourself this book. I had an author, a little book called How to Love Yourself in Less Than a Week and for the Rest of Your Life, Rachel Madorsky, little book, powerful little tiny book. And in it, she would say, what is the next most loving action I can take for myself? Like she would ask her, and it's always been rest. That was always
Yeah.
the answer, was just to stop and just
Yeah.
rest because we have that program of the do, the productive, productive. I mean, you grew
Yeah.
up with it as a 7-year
Yeah.
old working. I mean, your whole life's been do, right? And it's like us women, we have that check the box and feel good, right? Check, check, check. I did it. I did it. And it's like, that's
Yeah.
great. And that's how I am too. I'm an Aries. I'm very, go, go, go. But I love the rest, especially the older I get. The
Yeah.
older I get. I just turned 56.
Yeah.
It's like less is more. I have one little dog and like I send my son pictures of little dogs sometimes because I knew he wanted it. And he's like, oh, is that for you? I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Less is more. Less things. But
It becomes about quality, doesn't it, Linda?
quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ah, so good. And, it's just like I'm currently renting and like other people, it's like this judgment or this thing around, but like I could die next week and I am in a home where I don't have to change the light bulb. They come.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's to me a luxury, especially after being a single mom living in a house for 25 years and having to take care of everything. And here I don't have to do anything. But,
Yeah.
of course I desire a garage and different things, but down the road, but it's like it's all just perception and the mindset. Like there's somebody in her $600,000 house and her other house up north and she's still in scarcity. And I'm
Yeah.
over here in my apartment and I'm abundant, feeling abundant.
Mhm.
Time freedom, money freedom, whatever. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that, the mindset. So talk about the somatic a little bit. So you have all the tools in your tool belt. You have the spirit, you're a shaman.
Yes.
Shaman. Yeah. And you have the so somatic, like the breath work and you do tapping. I love the tapping. So how do
Yeah.
you
It's
know
very,
yeah, how do you when you have a client, how do you know which modality you're gonna use for them? Like what?
well, through conversation, through what comes up for them, through the questions they speak of, because I can't guess what
Yeah,
their issue is. They have to get in contact and tell me what their issue is,
got it.
and like a doctor has with their prescription box. With the shamanic work, that's how we get results so fast, because we activate in the quantum.
Mhm,
I've been building my medicine room in the quantum for a number of years now, and it works. It works faster than
mhm,
allopathic medicine. And what are we playing with? We're playing with energy. We're playing with intention. We're playing with ancient modalities, with modern day thinking as well. And so talk therapy alone takes too long. Obviously, we speak and we have conversation. And I also find that talk therapy alone is not sustainable. And
mhm,
so when we combine those three aspects, so we don't just do mindset, we also do heart set. How much do you love? How easily will you forgive? How
mm,
expansive will you be? The heart will be the barometer for the future. And then, of course, the health set. What's your body doing? How's your power going? Um, are you low in energy? Are you high in energy? What's going on there? Who is siphoning your energy? And then, of course, the spirit. What's your spirit like? What's going on in there? Are you doing things to keep you in spirit and inspired, or has spirit left the building? And so
mm,
all areas must be encompassed. And so that's when we ask particular questions, and then we can prescribe, and then I can prescribe. And so shamanism is a way of life. And I don't do plant medicine. I believe that everything we need is already within us now. I access nature's medicine, sound medicine, energy medicine, quantum medicine. And so we have one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the 3D world. And
mm,
so that's what a shaman is. A modern day shaman is someone who can walk between the worlds and see and shift energy. Predominantly, I work with nature and sound.
mm. I went to a sound healing a couple weeks ago, and the next like a week later I had a huge emotional something happen. Does it take like a week or is it instant with the sound?
It depends. It's how can I say it? Every situation is different. So I had the sound is the sound of my voice, which carries consciousness. The sound of my drum, which mimics the sound of one's heartbeat. And so what we're doing with the drum and my voice and the sound healing with the bells, the singing bowls, the singing ring, we're shutting down the left brain. We're shutting down the left brain so that we can access the right brain, which is intuition, which is higher consciousness, which is super consciousness. And so what we're looking into is the terrain rather than the symptom. We hear about the symptom, but then we work on the terrain. This is the fundamental essence of somebody. This is their terrain. And so the terrain, your environment, your internal ecology, your external kingdom, all these things are going to determine whether you get sick or not. So the
Mm.
terrain is the landscape of the body, which are your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, your intention, your epigenetics, the way you're made. And so when we can focus on the terrain, we can heal the dark side. And that is essentially what shamanic cosmology is.
Mm. Wow. Oh my goodness, so powerful. And all this is on your website, all your
Uh,
services.
Oh yes, what I do, but the rabbit hole goes
Mhm.
deep, right? We
Yeah.
also have something called the window of tolerance. While these practices have been around for eons, modern day consciousness still can't grasp the concept, and so this is why I'm very discerning with people who come into my orbit, right? Because, but you know, if we've been paying attention, even with the things you speak of and your podcast, Linda, we know where the collective consciousness is going, right? We know this. I've been a professional speaker, speaking on the world stage now for, over 15 years. And I remember when I first started, I called myself the spiritual entrepreneur. And my agents at the time said, I wouldn't use that word if I were you, Pauline, because people are afraid of the word spirituality. And I said, that's okay. Just get me in the door, because I'm a master on stage. I know what I need to do. I know all about nonverbals. I know all about script and NLP. Just get me on stage. You're my agent. That's what you do, right? And fast forward, I became one of the top female keynote speakers in Australia, because the collective consciousness, it's not that people are ready, they're craving it. They're craving it because all we're doing is speaking to the truth of them, the potential of them. I don't do tarot cards and crystal balls and palm reading. I have nothing against those tools. They are simply not my tools. The work that I do is about eyes in. How will you master yourself? How will you lead yourself? And then, of course, this physical body, this vehicle, is also made up of energy and frequency and vibration and spirit and intention and soul. And so that's why we work with all of it, not just with the mindset, right? But as we have it, fast forward a few years, now everyone's talking about mindfulness.
Yeah.
Now everyone's doing meditation, so we
Well,
know where the collective consciousness is going, but we're always, probably a decade ahead of everyone else. And so um, in my activations, the sound that comes out from my visceral energetics, it may not be beautiful lyrics or sing song, but it's my song, and that will activate something, activate an emotion. It will activate codes. It will activate an intention. And one thing I do not do is mess with anyone's energy, and I certainly do not let anyone mess with my energy.
oh
It's
yeah.
simply a resonance, right? And there's a whole lot of science that goes into it
I
as
love
well.
it.
But
I love it.
it's a window of tolerance, right? We share with someone what they're ready to hear. We find out where they're at, and then we lead them from there until they can come up to meet us.
Mm, so
So
good.
that we're not forcing anything, right? We're not forcing.
Yes. And I would love for you to share a little more on the science plus the spirituality that you have going, the
Oh,
science part. Yeah.
I think it's there are some things that science can't explain, but not everything in this world is meant to be understood and explained. But as we're talking about the window of tolerance, for someone who is new to this work, it is important for them to understand the science behind it, because science bridges cultures. Science has people, it actually makes sense to me. Okay. And so when we're talking about magnetism alone, when we're talking about, you walk into a room and then there's someone who just has that magnetism that makes you feel good, that makes you feel alive, and you walk away thinking, man, they've left me with a sense of increase. What was that? That's frequency, that's vibration. That is our torus field, which can be measured through EEG machines. It can be measured through, there's so much science. I'd recommend for your audience to have a look at the Heart Math Institute. They have so much science behind this stuff, measuring the torus field. Every one of us has this electromagnetic signature that we have. And I won't go on stage unless I've done the breath work, the energetic work, the intention work to expand my electromagnetic signature. And it can expand, we're talking meters in Australia, so it can expand 4 to 10 meters. And so I'm already influencing the energetics of the room before I even open my mouth. There's a whole lot of science behind that. It can be measured, and that comes from the power of the heart brain. And so the question then is, how is your magnetism going? And you can tell, you hang out with people and you just feel, there's something not right about them. They're not giving me anything. I don't feel anything. If anything, I'm contracted. That's all energetics. That's all the electromagnetic signature that they are either working on or not working on. And so we all respond to vibration. We're masses of vibration. Everything we sense vibrates. And so this is when we define someone with their vibrational tone, which merges with yours, which is in resonance with yours or not. And so, you want to work on, and with my students, I have, the one-to-many. I don't just have one-on-one clients. I teach one-to-many as well. And so we work on the vibration of creation. We work on the vibration of love. And most of all, we work on the vibration of authenticity, which is the most powerful vibration of all.
Yes, I love it.
And life gets fun. Life gets fun.
It does.
Life gets fun when you're hanging out with a whole lot of people who are vibrating with that tone.
I know. Yeah, for sure. And it's lonely until you find them, but it can be rather. But I always say I'm really good at protecting the energy, and I would rather hang out with my dog by myself than be around any draining, negative, lower vibrational beings. I am so much happier. I am like, good. It took me quite a while to get where I love myself or love my own company. And I would tell my students and my clients, like, learn to love your own company,
Yeah.
and yeah. And so let's see, I had a question come to mind around the ego,
Right.
and intuition, and how do you, Pauline, differentiate, is this ego or is this my intuition?
I don't correlate both. I don't think both are side by side. For me, first of all, I will say that don't trust your gut if your gut is shit. So but that's just shadow. That's just perception. That's I had a conversation with someone a while ago, and she'd met this man at a conference. She shook his hand, and she knew straight away that he was blah 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 blah. And I said, "How do you know? How do you know that? Are you a mind reader? No. Do you know the context of his background? No. Do you know body language? No. Do you know nonverbals? No. So everything that you are saying that he is, this and that, and there weren't nice things, And I said, that's your projection. That's your shadow.
She's projecting.
That's your ego. That's your fear, whatever it is. So what do I mean by don't trust your gut if your gut is shit? Are you trained in these things? Do you already have a barometer? Because you're skilled, because you're experienced, because you've had enough of these examples, you've had enough of life experience, you've had enough evidence to now set a barometer where you can say, my intuition tells me. Because you've been working on your intuition. You've been working on your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your claircognizance, your clairolfactant, whatever it is. Have you been working on it? Have you been training that muscle? Have you been amplifying that skill?
Yeah.
Only then can you say, I trust my intuition. Otherwise, it's pop spirituality based on crap, right? And so that's what I mean by we need to trust. You can't trust your gut if your gut is shit. And so that's where the work comes in, right? And so there's a lot of stigma around, oh, that's your ego, that's your I think ego is used in too many ways that are inappropriate.
Mhm.
My ego is my drive. When you ask what is Pauline's ego is my drive to succeed, my drive to be better than before, my drive to push forward humanity, my drive to evolve. That comes from an egoic drive. But I have a lot to thank my ego for. It got me here. My ego protects me, but I also know when it is the occupant, that it occupies me. And then I say, I see you.
Yeah.
There you are. What do you have to say? Okay. I, I probably don't need you on this occasion.
Mhm. I
But
love
but,
that.
but thank you for the reminder.
Mhm.
But that
Yeah.
comes from practice and a whole lot of awareness, right?
Yeah.
Versus being hijacked by the propaganda of our distortions.
Yeah.
So that's where the distinctions need to be.
Yeah. Self-awareness for sure. I know that I asked another coach that question once and she said, "Oh, that's an easy answer. Your intuition or your is always for the highest good."
Not if your intuition is shit.
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. No, I had this part-time job at one time and I was doing this like these card things. I was sitting in the back as my back hurt or whatever. And it was like part of me was saying like you are better than this. Your time is worth you are
Yeah.
worthy of something better than this. Your time is better spent somewhere else. And I was like, wait, is this ego or is this my inner guide saying this isn't for you?
Mm.
And it could be both actually,
It sounds
but
to me like that's your life experience, Linda, also. It's not an either or proposition. Your life experience, your intention, your standards for yourself says, I'm not going to go down this road again.
I'm more valuable
That's
than this.
that's Linda.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I should be the manager here. You know what I mean? I'm a leader, so, but anyway, so yeah, I love that. And no, the ego's always there to protect us and it gets a bad rap sometimes, but
It gets a bad rap if it is at the driving wheel, is at the
the
steering wheel.
driver. Yeah, the
Yeah.
steering wheel. That makes sense. Yeah, that's powerful. Very good, very good. So tell us about your personal spiritual practice, your morning practice, your evening practice, your Buddhism. Tell us how you take care of you.
I have a practice, but I'm 52 this year, and the practice has to change as perimenopause kicks in, and they are non-negotiable until they need to be negotiated, right?
Yeah.
And so when I am that, I won't bore the listeners with all the perimenopausal boring stuff that we have to go through, and so most mornings I get up before the sun rises and to watch the sun rise.
Mm,
The science behind watching the actual sunrise. There's a beautiful spot where I coach a lot of my clients. When I do one-on-one work with them, we meet in the dark and we watch the sun rise. I'm cheating because I'm accessing nature's medicine. I have the assistance of Mother Earth and Father Sun. We are surrounded by a panoramic view of the ocean as we can watch the sun rise. And so now we're always also, as I'm speaking to them, I'm doing the semantic. I'm listening to what issue do you have today? How can I assist you as a coach? And we're having a conversation. But while we're doing this, we're watching the sun rise. This is the somatic. And so as the sun rises, we do gaze in the sun, into the sun, the most potent healing frequency of the day. And so as we're doing this, the sun activates healing from the inside out, boosts our mitochondria. It's the safest time to look at the sun. It resets the circadian rhythm. is just so incredibly beneficial for us to build our solar callus so that we very rarely get sick. And then when we catch something, we can heal very quickly. So this is the somatic, right? We're getting the morning sun on our skin, the morning sun on in our eyes, while I am assisting you with whatever coaching issue you need assistance with. And then at the end of the session, we do shamanic activation, having already heard what you need assistance with, having already been surrounded by nature's medicine. I now go into shamanic activation, and that is a process within itself. And then after that, we jump in the ocean, nature's greatest Faraday cage. And so we're back to the somatic again. And in between those sessions, if we need to do some qigong or some tapping, or we need to release some pressure at particular points in our body, but it always finishes with a dip in the ocean. And so have the salt water on our skin. We're always barefoot as well, because we're grounded to the earth. We're neutralizing the harmful EMFs. I'm sitting in front of the computer a lot. I'm not going to give up my computer. I'm not going to give up my phone. Sometimes I have to sit in really artificial light, but I know how to neutralize it. I'm going to know how to manage it. And so the formula is 15 minutes of nature will neutralize 1 hour of harmful EMFs. So if I'm doing this most days, I'm good to set myself up for the day. So it's those times where, you know, you're sitting in front of harmful EMFs and not natural EMFs, and you're just like getting a little bit antsy and a little bit agitated. Go out, put your palm to a tree, foot to the ground, hug a tree, get in the sun. Nature will neutralize straight away for you. This is the beauty of nature's medicine. And also, you know, jumping in the ocean, it activates all the, I guess, the coding, the information, the messaging, the coaching that we've already spent the last hour and a bit working on. And then they walk away in spirit, inspired, charged to do more, as well as all the health benefits that have been received for that morning as well.
I love that. Yeah, I'm
And
always in
fun. It's so
nature.
much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I'm in nature all the time. I live 5 minutes from nature. I'm always in nature with the dog, and I love to put my eyes on the sun and be in the ocean and all that. I love it. So back to you. That's your client and you experience. So do you have a practice when you don't have the client or is that what you're doing for yourself too every
Yeah.
morning? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do for myself. If I'm not with client, that's what I do. And throughout the day, there's I probably go into deep rest 2 to 3 times a day, but I have the
Mhm.
luxury of working from home as well. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wonderful. Yeah, I was just going to share that for me with the eating thing. I just want to share that. And I've talked to another spiritual coach that's been teaching for 49 years. I don't think he's shaman, like as knowledgeable as you in many ways, but and he said whatever works for you. Like, and for
yeah,
me, when I eat meat, I get depressed. It affects me. So I just
yes,
have to listen and do what feels, I am
of course.
highest vibration when I'm not eating it. I feel my best and I'm less fearful. Like I
Yeah, wonderful.
suddenly, yeah, I'm like, I'm in flow. I'm, aligned. I'm feeling, faith and trust. And I study the Course in Miracles and I have a lot of Buddhist beliefs and things. And we
Yeah,
create our realities and all the things. And then if I go and have a piece of chicken or something, like it might take 24 hours, but all of a
yeah,
sudden I'm having fear,
yeah.
lack, scarcity mindset. And I'm like, I ate a piece of chicken.
Yeah. Well, that's, now is a whole different conversation with where did that chicken come from? How was that chicken raised? What trauma did that chicken go through?
Exactly.
Who has been handling it? But simply it's not what your body wants. So when you asked earlier, what are my practices now with menopause, I have to take estrogen during the day, progesterone during the evening, and I get my testosterone through pushing and pulling weights. And so I went through probably 2 years of trying to figure all this out, trying to change, what do I need to do because this thing sucks. And so we have to constantly adapt. We have to consistently listen to our body. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's only just what you believe or only just what your values are. It is
Yeah.
also, this is what my body needs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
intuition, it's listening
yeah,
and knowing, and I'll tell you, water is powerful because when I was at an event in Miami of 2021, and I was washing my hands, and I got this divine download, I belong in Florida. I belong in
yeah,
Florida, and
yes,
I ended up changing my whole life and relocating. It took a lot of, support and mindset and prayer and all my tools and to get here and do it, but it was during that time that I got the message, "You belong
yeah,
here." So,
wonderful.
wash under the water, So, water is a thing, and I love it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this has been an amazing conversation. I love talking to you. I love all of this. Is there anything else you wanna touch on or cover or talk about or share?
I'd love to share, if I may, how your listeners can get in contact with me or
Of
be more
course.
exposed to my work. I'm very active on Instagram and TikTok. I share some personal stuff, but mostly well crafted teachings of mine. It's Pauline N Speaks, also on LinkedIn. But please do have a look at my website, Pauline Nguyen, Nguyen.com, and you can have a look at all the other roles and other hats that I wear. And of course, I'm always available for keynote speeches and teachings and coaching and all that stuff. But
It's
if you really
amazing.
want to have a great entry point to my work, is the book The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur.
Mm, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So Pauline N Speaks is your Instagram. I'll have to
Yes.
follow you. We'll have to follow each other there. And then TikTok is the same, Pauline N Speaks. Okay, beautiful. We'll put the links in the show notes. I love talking to you. I'd love to stay connected with you. I feel a connection, definitely. We met and it's like we're both wearing glasses. We're both wearing red. We're both I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm getting the book and I'm going to order it right now when I get off.
Awesome. Linda, thank you so much for having me. Blessings to you and blessings to all of your listeners.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blessings to you. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. It means so much to me that you're here. I know you have many options of things to listen to. If you did enjoy today's show, please share with someone you think would benefit. I would love to grow this audience and help as many people as I can. Also, leaving a review means so much to me. I would love it if you could leave a review. I hope you have a blessed day and live empowered. If you're looking for a coach, lindabrandcoach.com. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the places. Take care, everybody.